Hello and welcome back to our channel. If you're somebody who is aiming to crack IELTS in 2025, then this video is for you. Now, before we dive into the main story, I would like to quickly take you through some basic must-knows regarding the IELTS test. I'll show you. Now, regarding the validity of the IELTS test, how long it is valid? Starting from the test date, it is valid up to 2 years. 2 years from the date you have taken the test. That is the validity of the IELTS test. Then regarding the test order, I hope you all would be knowing what are the different subtests that come under the IELTS test. You have listening, reading, writing and speaking. And how is the order? So first you have the writing followed by the listening test, and then you have the reading test. And your speaking test happens a few days, either it happens a few days before the WLR or a few days after the WLR. It can happen either ways. Then the duration, the writing test is for 1 hour, wherein you have to complete 2 tasks, and the listening test is approximately, it extends for about 40 minutes, and then the reading test is again for 1 hour, and you get a 10 minutes gap between the different subtests. That is how the structure of the test goes. Then another thing that I would like to remind us regarding the recent update which has come in Feb 2025 regarding the usage of pencils. That is, candidates are no longer allowed to use pencils for writing their IELTS test. They must be using black ballpoint pen. So pencils are no longer allowed. They should be using black ballpoint pen. Alright, with this essential information, now we are going to get into the heart of today's video. So this video is all about how to crack or how to pass IELTS in 2025. Excited? How can we do this? I would say that know your mistakes and learn from them. What? Just knowing your mistakes and learning from the mistakes, you can clear IELTS? It might sound simple, but yes, it is something that you have to consider seriously. Now, there might be a lot of mistakes that you make commonly which goes unnoticed. So you have to identify them rightly and rectify them so that you can improve your scores. So in this video, I have tried to include some common mistakes from the different subtests and see what are they and how they can be rectified. So let's start, or let's go on a subtest-wise analysis. Starting with IELTS speaking. You know the format of IELTS speaking. It consists of 3 parts, part 1, part 2 and part 3. Overall, it extends for about 11 to 14 minutes. And in that part 2 of IELTS speaking, which we call it as individual long turn or cue card, is sometimes challenging for candidates because they have to speak at length continuously for 2 minutes. They're given a cue card and they get 1 minute to prepare on the card, and then they have to speak continuously for about 2 minutes on that topic. Now what happens here is that sometimes they tend to run out of points. They stop before 2 minutes. You should not be doing that. That's one biggest mistake that students make or candidates make when it comes to IELTS speaking. That is, in part 2, they don't complete the full 2 minutes. Now, the interlocutor is not there to know your interest or know the real facts regarding the topic that is given. But what they're going to assess is your language proficiency. So, to showcase your English language proficiency, it's very necessary or it's very important that you speak for the full 2 minutes. Now, how can you do that? Suppose that you can see this is the cue card that is given to you. Describe a useful website, and cues are given. Cues or hints we call them. What it is, what website it is, how often you visit it, what kind of service it offers, and explain why you think it is useful. Now, what you usually do is, during the 1 minute preparation time, you make notes what you should be saying, the main words that you should be saying associated with each of these cue or hint. So what it is, you decide what website I need to talk about. Maybe you can talk about Amazon. Then how often you visit it. So once in a month or maybe weekly or daily. you visited, whatever the frequencies, what kind of service it offers. It's an e-commerce platform that that you use for buying a variety of products, and then explain why you think it's useful. You can think of something, the convenience it offers, like all the products, whatever we need, all of them are available at our fingertips. So you make a basic idea, and then when the timer begins for 2 minutes of speaking, you start speaking. You expand on all of these 4 cues given here. And once that is done, but even then the examiner does not signal that the time is up, which means that you have time remaining. Now, what do you do at this point? You'll simply stop and say that you're done with it? No, you shouldn't be doing that. That is the biggest mistake you make. So what you have to think at such instances when you feel that you don't have further points to speak, I would say that you have to think out of this box. I don't mean that you have to bring in a totally different idea, no, but you have to think of an point which might not be from the 4 given clues, but at the same time it is related to the main topic, useful website. So what you can do is that apart from thinking from your perspective, you can think from others' perspective as well regarding the website. So maybe you can say that, okay, I find it very useful because of the convenience. And then if you feel that you have time again, you can add on by saying that, however, there are a lot of people, even in my family, I would say that they actually don't prefer this online shopping because they're not very happy about the idea of buying things without touching and feeling it. So you can expand on that other's perspective also. So this is one trick, simple trick, which you can apply or employ when it comes to speaking part 2 if you feel that you have run out of ideas. Once you've completed all the 4 cues, just try to think of the same topic from another perspective. Okay, I hope that is clear. So next time when you do your speaking part 2 cue card, make sure that you speak for the full 2 minutes and thereby achieving better scores. Now let's move on to the next subtest, IELTS writing. As you all know, in IELTS writing, you need to complete 2 tasks. The total duration is 60 minutes. And writing is different for academic and general. GT writing is different. So for academic, in task 1, they need to do a report writing. And for GT, they have to do a letter writing. Whatever, in both cases, you need to write at least 150 words. Now, task 2 is common for both academic and GT, wherein you need to write an essay in at least 200 words. So, one major mistake that happens in task 2 is that a candidate would have written an essay beautifully using excellent vocabulary, expressing a wide range of grammar usages, no spelling mistakes, punctuation's perfect, all good. But they would have not met one particular aspect with regard to the assessment criteria, that is task response. Now, what do you mean by this task response? In your essay questions, if you look at the prompt, you will be seeing 2 parts. That is, there will be a statement part and a task part. Now, the task part tells you what exactly you need to provide in your essay or how exactly you need to react to that statement. On the screen, you can see some of the basic essay types that you have in task 2. One is opinion essay, agree or disagree. So to what extent do you agree or disagree? This is what actually the essay wants. Your stand or your position should be made clear in the essay. Without doing that, if you simply start talking about online learning and traditional classroom learning, no, then the task response is not met there. So this is one common mistake some candidates make. That is, it's not because they don't have the language control. They would be having good language control, but still they fail to address this aspect of task response, which can actually cost them or which can actually result in reducing their scores. Same goes with outweigh essays. So this outweigh aspect should be reflected in your essay. Now outweigh means which has more weightage, whether the advantages have more weightage or the disadvantages. So how do you reflect in the essay? If you feel that advantages are more, you should be presenting more advantages. If you feel the disadvantages are more, you should be bringing in more strong points regarding the disadvantage. Then discuss both sides, both views, and give your opinion. Both views should be discussed in the essay, as well as your opinion. Your opinion should also appear in the essay. Then regarding positive or negative development, it's not just enough that you talk about the statement. You have to say what do you feel, whether it is a positive or a negative development. Then two-part question. In two-part question, there will be two aspects in the statement, and like here you can see why is this the case. The statement is, today more people are choosing to live in cities rather than rural areas. Why is this? You have to give the reason and what problems can this cause. So both these aspects should come in the essay. Only then the task response is complete. This is the band descriptor for IELTS writing task 2, and if you look at the task response for a band 9, what can you see here? It is said that a clear and fully developed position is presented which directly answers the question. So it is, see how important the task response is. You have to make your position clear which directly answers the question. The question means the task part in the prompt, that is the essay question, should be directly addressed. So if you have not addressed that, you're not going to get scores for that task response. Now I'll show you an example. Suppose that this is the prompt, or this is the essay question. Now you can see a question, an essay question on the screen. Some people think that the increasing use of social media brings more harm than good to individuals and society. What are the advantages and disadvantages of social media? Do you think the overall impact is positive or negative? Now, when you get your question, when you get your essay prompt, at least you have to read it twice, at least twice, to make sure that you have understood what the task or what you need to do, what the task is. So here you have to clearly say the advantages and disadvantages of social media. That is one aspect that you have to address. And another aspect is you have to say that overall, whether the overall impact of social media is positive or negative. If you're just focusing on one of these questions, then you will not score for task response. I'll show you a sample. Now here, the introduction, the body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, the language control of the candidate is good, well, the grammar control is fine, good vocabulary, punctuations, all are fine. But just look at the introduction. Social media has become an integral part of our daily lives. While it has revolutionized communication and information sharing, it has also raised concerns about its effects on people and society. Mention both advantages and disadvantages. Advantages have been mentioned, and disadvantages have also been included in the introduction. But what about the overall idea, whether it has a positive or negative impact? It's not. Your position is not reflected in the introduction paragraph, and same in the conclusion. Of course, in the body paragraph 1, the candidate would have written the advantages, in body paragraph 2, disadvantages, but again, overall aspect did not come in this essay. And in conclusion also, social media has both benefits and drawbacks. It is essential for users to use it responsibly and mindfully to avoid the negative effects. But you have not again made your opinion clear that overall whether it is positive or negative. Now, how it should have been written to meet the task response is, the introduction should have been something like this. Here, the rise of social media has drastically transformed how individuals communicate and interact. While some argue that its effects are largely harmful, others see its potential to benefit society. So they say it has both advantages and disadvantages. And then look at the final line in the introduction. In my opinion, its overall impact is more negative than positive, which means that the answer to the second part of the question in the prompt, that the overall impact is negative or positive, has been addressed in the introduction itself, and it will be reflected, and it should be reflected throughout the essay. First body paragraph advantages, second body paragraph disadvantages, and look at the third body paragraph. However, the disadvantages often outweigh the positive, which means that you have the opinion that the overall impact is negative. So this paragraph talks about that. And let's look at the conclusion as well. In conclusion, while social media does offer several benefits, the harm it causes, particularly to mental health, social relationship and societal trust, makes its overall impact more negative. So benefits, then the problems have been mentioned, and the overall impact is also mentioned. So this is how you have to develop your essay. Make sure that the task response is taken into consideration. So please don't commit this mistake next time when you do your essay writing. Now we shall move on to our third subtest, IELTS reading. Now, I have seen a lot of students say that, or I have seen a lot of students do a lot of practice for their speaking and writing, and they pay relatively less attention to reading and listening. What they say is that writing and speaking are productive skills. So it might not be something that they would have been doing on a regular basis. So to generate ideas while speaking and writing, they need a lot of practice. Of course, yes, I do understand and I agree to that idea. And reading, they say that what is there in reading, you just need to read passages and answer to the questions. So that's pretty much easy. And in listening also, you need to listen to the audio and find the answer and put it onto the answer sheet, which means that they don't need their creative or productive aspect there. It's just copy and paste. That is true, but if you're not familiar with the question types, what type of questions you get in your reading, that will be difficult. You will be using most of your time in identifying what the question means, what are the instructions, how the answer should be recorded. You take a lot of time there, rather which actually should have been invested in reading and understanding the passage. So it's very important that you understand the different question types when it comes to IELTS reading. These are some of the basic question types in IELTS reading: matching type of questions, then multiple choice questions, short answer questions, true, false, not given, or yes, no, not given, then note completion kind of questions. Now, one major area of confusion for students is this: true, false, not given, or yes, no, not given. Are they the same? Can we use them interchangeably? For an answer which requires true, can I write yes? Or are the question types same for true, false, not given and yes, no, not given? Well, no. I'll tell you. Now, what is the difference between yes, no, not given and true, false, not given? Yes, no, not given, in that type of question, the text will contain the opinions, views or beliefs of the writer or other people who are mentioned in the text. So yes, no, not given kind of questions will be asking you to find out the opinions or views of the writer or some other person who is mentioned in the text. But when it comes to true, false, not given, the text will contain factual information about a topic. So in true, false, not given question, you have to identify from the options whether it matches with a fact that is given in the text or not. So yes, no, not given is about the writer's or any other person's opinion, views or belief, wherein true, false and not given is for factual information. Okay, that is the difference between true, false, not given and yes, no, not given. And for a true, false, not given question, you have to state the answer as true, false or not given itself. You should not replace it with yes, no or not given. Same goes with yes, no, not given. If the question asks for yes, no or not given, you have to state the answer as yes, no or not given. Now, what is the difference between yes, no and not given, or true, false or not given? Yes and true, of course, I guess that you know what it means. If you have to choose an option as yes, it means that the statement, the given statement in the option agrees with the claims of the writer. That is, an option is given to you. If you have to state that claim is right, then you have to find from the text that it matches with the claim that the writer makes in the text. Then you can say that say that option is yes. When do you say no? Students often get confused between this no and not given. Yes, of course they understand, but no and not given, sometimes they get confused. Now, when do we say no for a view and when do we say not given? No, we say if the statement contradicts the claims of the writer. that is, the statement given in the question is contradicting or opposing the claim that the writer makes in the text, then we say it as no. And for factual type of questions, for factual information, we state it as false. And now, when do we say not given? Not given, we say we have to go with the option not given when we don't have enough information regarding the claim or the fact which is presented in the question to match up with the information in the text. That is, I don't say that that information does not exist completely in the text. Something regarding the statement, given statement in the question will be there in the text, but at the same time the information will not be complete. So when you're not able to find a complete match between the statement and the idea in the text, then we say it as not given. If the given statement contradicts with the idea in the text, then it is false or no. If the given statement completely matches with the idea given in the text, then it is yes or true. I hope that is clear. I shall show an example. Now here you can see a text. It's not the full text, it's just a part from it. And here you can see 3 questions: yes, no, not given. It's given that do the following statements agree with the claims of the writer. If the statement agrees, you have to mark it as yes. If the statement contradicts the claims of the writer, you have to mark it as no. If it is impossible to say what the writer thinks about this, then you have to mark it as not given. So let's see. What does the first statement say? E-scooters are more environmentally friendly than cars. Now, do we find the statement in the text? If you look at the second sentence, it says that according to transport analyst Maria Gomez, e-scooters produce far fewer emissions than cars, which means that it is more environmental friendly than cars. You have the opinion which matches with this statement. For that reason, you can mark this as yes. Now moving on to the second statement, the environmental impact of e-scooters has been fully studied and proven. Now if you look at the last sentence in the text, you can see, although there are studies underway to measure the full carbon footprint of e-scooters, no conclusive data is currently available, which means that the environmental impact of e-scooters has been fully studied. It actually contradicts with the writer's claim in the text. For that reason, we should be marking it as no. Now moving on to the third statement. E-scooters are relatively more suitable for short distance travel compared to conventional scooters. Now here, if you look at the passage, you can see something regarding the short distance travel. What is said or what is mentioned in the passage? E-scooters produce far fewer emissions than cars and are particularly effective for short distance travel. It is said that e-scooters are particularly effective for short distance travel. That is, it's most suitable for short distance travel. But has a comparison been made with conventional scooters in the passage? No. Conventional scooters it's nowhere mentioned in the passage. So we cannot say it as contradicting. If it was, when do we say it is contradicting? If an idea completely exactly opposite to this appears in the text, we say it as contradicting. But here we don't have information regarding conventional scooters in the text. For that reason, we would be marking this as not given. I hope that is clear. Now let's get into our last subtest, that is the listening subtest. One aspect that is often overlooked when it comes to IELTS listening is that sometimes candidates fail to understand or identify the tone of the speaker. I'll tell you what it is. That is, sometimes some questions might ask for, the feeling of the speaker. Now, whether the speaker was feeling nervous, excited, anxious, frustrated. It's not necessary that the speaker will put that verbally, I'm very nervous, or I'm very excited, but from the tone of the speaker, you have to identify it. So understanding the tone is very important when you get such kind of questions. For instance, if I say that her outfit look gaudy, or I can say that her outfit looks gaudy. So Is the tone same? No. When I say her outfit looks gaudy, I'm impressed. But when I say her outfit looks gaudy, which means that I'm not very impressed. I didn't like that outfit. So the words are the same, but the tone is different. So such kind of situations sometimes happen in your listening test, and it's very important that you have to listen to such situations very closely to identify the tone. If the question asks for what the speaker thinks or what the speaker feels rather than what the speaker says. Okay, I'll show you an example. Here is the question. At first, Fiona thinks that Martin's tutorial topic is. So it's something what Fiona thinks, not what Fiona says. Okay. So whether she thinks it is inappropriate, whether she thinks it's dull or interesting or fascinating. Let's find it out. I'll play the audio.
Now listen and answer questions 21 to 24.
Hi there, Martin. How are you going with your Australian Studies tutorial paper?
Oh, good. I finished it, actually.
Lucky you. What did you do it on? I'm still trying to find an interesting topic.
Well, after some consideration, I decided to look at the history of banana growing in Australia.
Banana growing?
Yeah, banana growing.
Fascinating, I'm sure.
Well, it's not as boring as you'd think. And I wanted to tie it into the work.
Did you notice? What was Fiona's response? She said, banana growing, fascinating, I'm sure. She did not say it fascinating. She said fascinating, I'm sure. And you can actually confirm it from Martin's response that she's not very excited about the idea. How did Martin respond? Martin responded by saying that, well, it's not as boring as you think, which means that even though she said fascinating, she said that in a very sarcastic way. What she intended was it's not a very exciting or interesting topic. She rather felt it as a boring topic. For that reason, the answer is B, dull. So this is how you need to focus on tone for questions which ask for the speaker's thought or feelings. Okay, now that we have gone through all the 4 sub-tests, I have just tried to bring forth some of the common mistakes that candidates make with regard to each of these sub-tests. It might not be the same with all of you. So what you have to do is that you need to identify the kind of mistakes that you make and then try to work on them. Just think that you do a listening test and you got 20 wrong answers. Out of the 40 questions, you got 20 wrong answers. You might feel upset and then you think that, okay, no problem, I'll see it in the next test. And you go to the second test and then you do another test. But the problem with this approach is that you do a lot of tests, but you're not knowing that why you made those kinds of mistakes that you made initially. So it's very important that after you complete a test, you analyze what went wrong, why you made those 20 questions wrong, and you have to find out the solution for that and then move to the next test. So it's not about practicing 1,000 different materials, but one test you do, you have to clearly analyze what went wrong and how you made right answers and how you made wrong answers. Proper analysis and then rectification is very, very important. So with that, we come to the end of this video. So I wish you all the best for cracking your IELTS in 2025. If you have any queries or any questions, please feel free to post it as comments. Okay, so until we see through our next video, bye-bye and stay tuned.
Medcity International Academy. Trusted hands forever.